I actually led the nation in NAIA in 3-point shooting percentage, and I think you have to like shoot a certain amount of threes per game to even be on that list. So I led the nation, and this is kind of a story that always just makes me laugh. So I led the nation the entire, not the entire year, but most of the year, and we got down to like the last like 6 games of the season. I was in a shooting slump. Like I was like shooting really bad. Like I would make like 1 out of 5, 1 out of 6, like just not shooting well. And then the very last game, I went 0 for 4, and like that, I think if I would have made 1 3, I would have still been top in the nation shooting percentage. But I got one other guy passed me up. I ended up being second in the nation because I was in this bad shooting slump the end of the year. So still looking back at that, I'm like, oh, that sucks. But whatever. It's neither here nor there.
Parallax. You are now tuned into the Parallax Effect. It's not the message, it's the messenger. What up, Ryan? It's time. Parallax. Oatmeal's better than no meal. Guess who's back to make mountains out of molehills? If this don't move you, I bet my folks will. This beat's smooth, but trust me, there ain't no chill. Ask Ryan, if I'm lying, I'm flying. It's the sculpture of all aspects of the culture. Parallax. The People's Podcast is back, laying it down flat for you wherever you at. Your job, or your car, or your jog, or your flight. Loads of archives with no ending in sight. Hitting on any topic, long as it ain't no nonsense. You can see the others for the drama and the gossip. Word to Brett, best there ever was, recognize it. Never secondary, my eyes stay on the pocket. Parallax. And if you feeling the vibes, give us 5 stars. Oh, and follow and subscribe. Parallax. Sit back and recline, relax and enjoy the ride. Cause it's that Parallax. And you just passed the test. This is the Parallax Effect. Come on, Parallax. Sit back and recline, relax and enjoy the ride. Cause it's that Parallax. And you're here, that's mad respect. Welcome to the Parallax Effect. Yeah.
Welcome back to the Parallax Effect, where we continue to navigate through the shifting tides of perspectives. I am your host, Ryan Lavelle. We got a great show for you today. Once again, we keep bringing it to you week after week after week. You can follow us on Twitter on Parallax Effects. Once again, that's Parallax Effects with an S on Twitter. On Instagram, Parallax Effect Media. That's Parallax Effect Media. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. We would love to have you subscribe to our channel. Let's just go ahead and get with it already. I've got my guest locked, loaded, ready to go. This is a guy that I met in physical therapy school, and I immediately gravitated to him because not only was he the smartest person in the class, but he was also one of the most entertaining, one of the most gregarious, just made you feel very comforting, very down-to-earth guy. He is also a physical therapist. He is a world-renowned talent in the orthopedic realm of things. Get your fix in now, because we're going to talk about his whole career and his business and everything like that. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Dr. Caleb Burgess. Welcome to the Parallax Effect.
What's up, man? Hey, I wasn't expecting that intro. That was awesome. I was like vibing
man.
over here the whole time.
Yeah, the intro has been a real big hit, man. Big
I
shout
love
out
that.
to Mega Ran once again for lacing that up for us. It made my show feel official, to be honest with you. But how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. I'm out
Excellent.
here ready to go.
Ready to rock. I see you got the it looks like a future gym in the background there. Your
Yeah,
studio happening. Yeah,
yeah, it's
I
the
like
rough
it.
draft. It's the rough
The
draft.
Yeah, the rough draft soon to be the final cut very, very soon, and we'll definitely get into that. I wanted to start with you a little bit before we met. Get into your upbringing a little bit. Where are you from, Caleb?
I am from uh, Orange County, so Southern California, a city called Costa Mesa near Newport Beach. So I'm dropping a bunch of random names, but a lot of people know Newport Beach. Not everybody knows Costa Mesa, but yeah. So Orange County, right there. Grew up going to the beach. A little bit of surfing, but not too much. Mostly basketball and baseball and a little bit of soccer.
Yeah. Well, I've definitely seen your basketball and your soccer prowess, and we're gonna get into that as well too. So that kind of dominated your youth. You were a youth athlete. You were obviously a great student, to get into the field that you're in. So what was all that like for you?
Well, I mean, my mom was somebody who like really pushed me to do well in academics. And my dad, I mean, my mom and dad supported me in both, but I would say my mom was more like really on me for academics. My dad was really more on me for if you want to do well in sports, you got to work hard kind of thing. But I think from both of them combined really helped me kind of try to do the best I could in everything. I mean, that's a lot of people, but I feel like I carried that over to today and even career stuff. I don't like to just kind of punch in and punch out. I like to do more, as much as I can with the time that I have.
So were you someone who was raised with like set chores? Did you get an allowance? Were you put on a strict regimen,
Yeah.
or were you allowed to
So
be a little freeform?
I was free to a degree. I mean, it depends on who you talk to, but I guess I had a decent amount of freedom. I had chores, but it wasn't like a. I have friends that it was more regimented for. Let's just put it that way. So I think it was a
Hmm.
nice mix.
And did you have brothers and sisters that you grew up with, or what was the
No,
household like?
just me, only child. I have two little boys now, which was important. And there's nothing against only children because I'm one of them, but I really wanted to make sure I had gave them a sibling because I never had that, and I kind of wished I did. And I think you learn a lot of great life skills from that. But I think there's parts of my life that were kind of cool, and I definitely was spoiled by my parents. So I'm gonna appreciate that for what it was. So yeah, that was my life.
Well,
But I had some really good friends. So I had friends that were like brothers that I've known since I was like 4 or 5 years old, and still talk to them and stay close to them.
and if you would have had a sibling, would have preferred older, younger? Did you not care? Did you want a twin? Like what were those thoughts like?
Yeah, no preference. It was more just like, hey, I feel like when I have kids, I want to make sure that they have at least one. I think we're gonna stop at two though. I think two's enough.
Well, you never know. You're just getting started. How old are your kids now?
I got a 2.5 year old, and I have an is he almost 8 month old. Like in a week, I'll have like maybe a week and a half. Yeah, so 2.5 and 8 months. I think the hardest period was having the newborn, the second newborn with the toddler. My wife and I talked about this is probably the hardest time of our life. And then as they get a little bit older, it's still tough, but I mean, not you get a little more sleep now, a little bit. So we're good.
Describe a little bit some more of those struggles. Obviously, sleep is paramount, but having two close together, I think, may be beneficial as far as their proximity when they grow up together. Or what do you think?
Yeah, no, that we planned that. So we wanted to have them. I can't remember the exact amount. My wife knows all the logistics, but I think we planned it on like around 18 months or so was the kind of the goal. And I think they ended up being about 20, 22 months apart. So yeah, they're gonna be nice and close. They're already my little one is obsessed with my toddler, and so that bond is already there. And my older one, I mean, because he was the first, sometimes he gets annoyed if he's a little grumpy or something, but for the most part, he loves the little one too. So it's kind of cool to see them be brothers already, being so young. But I think they're gonna be close as they grow up too.
So, you and the wife don't want to try for a little girl, or you're gonna hold
Well,
that
she really
conversation.
wanted a girl. She wanted a girl, and I mean, I technically wanted a girl too, but it's kind of one of those things, just like having the two and the responsibilities and just budgetary and just the fact that like, do we really want to go through that again? Like the grind, well, her having to go through like pregnancy and then giving birth and then all the sleep deprivation. I mean, for me, it's a lot easier compared to her, but still, on my end, in my perspective, it's hard, but for her, it's like a million times harder. So we're especially she's like, that's it, no more. I'm fine being a boy mama.
Yeah, she makes the final call. Well, yeah, definitely
Yeah,
congratulations to both of you. Very proud of the both of you. But
thanks.
going back to you as an only child, so what was it like when you needed someone to lean on, when you maybe struggled, or when you had a situation, and whether that be a disciplinary type of situation or just a life situation? Who did you gravitate towards?
I mean, I think my friends would probably tell you I was really close to my parents, almost like uh, just overly close. Some people would actually think it was just most people aren't that close to their parents, but I think as an only child, you kind of are because like you're not hanging out with a brother or sister. I mean, you hang out with friends a lot, but when you in those situations where you're trying to go to somebody, I mean, you go to like I go to my dad, I go to my mom too, but I think mostly my dad, especially as I got older. So pretty close to my parents in that regard. So that's who I would kind of lean on. I mean, I still had close friends I would talk to as well, but like obviously when you're at home and you're hanging out with your parents a lot more than maybe somebody who has siblings.
Right, right. And so then kind of gaining your core group of friends, like you said, when you were very, very young, did you guys go through the youth system, the youth athletic system together, or just went to the same school
Yeah.
or?
Yeah, it was a small private Christian school. It started from like kindergarten all the way to senior year. So a lot of the guys, not everybody, but a lot of people kind of stayed there from the very beginning all the way through. So it's kind of one of those things where like you've known somebody since they were like literally almost a baby, like a little kid, and you know them all the way through. So it's like hard not to feel like a brother in a way. Um, but then as far as sports are concerned, I mean that some people I did play a lot of sports with, but a lot of it was like just you'd play random because it's a private school, public school. I mean, private school that's not like exclusive to the area that you live in. Like there are people that would be like we would live like an hour apart from some of you, like 45 minutes apart. So you weren't in the same district. So a lot of the guys I played like sports with weren't the guys I went to school with
Mhm.
until obviously you get a little bit older into like junior high and high school, and then of course you're playing the same sports together. But from a sports
Yes.
perspective, I mean, there was some of that, but it was just kind of mix and match depending on who lived closer to you and who was what was more convenient probably to the parents, right? They're not going to be driving too far when their kids are in first grade. They're going to probably drive something close to their house.
Right, right. And so you went to the same school from kindergarten all the way to senior high school.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever like yearn to, oh, I wonder what the public school life is like, or did you, or were you just like, this is what it is. I'm happy where I'm at, and I'm gonna go all the way through with this.
Yeah, I think a lot of us thought that, and we had like the weird thing when you're in a small private school is you know everybody super like you know like everybody to a degree, but at the same time you do have a lot of friends, especially like I said, because you're kind of spread out in the county or whatever. So you have a lot of friends near you where you live that go to other schools. So you kind of it depends. Not everybody's like this, but I had some friends groups that were from other schools. So I mean, you just kind of like mesh with whoever's more near you. And so I kind of thought that sometimes where they would tell me stories about things at their school that like things that they had like we didn't have dances at our school. Like, it's pretty conservative in that regard. So I'd go to like in high school we go to like dances at other schools in the area, which is kind of fun because you would go to like two or three different proms, like
Yeah.
rather than just the one at your school. So that was
Nice to
kind
be
of
like a
fun.
badge of honor.
Yeah, just kind of like go, just you just hop around different places. Okay, this weekend we got this one, and this weekend we got this one. So that was kind of fun, and just meeting different people from different schools. So you kind of just like were a chameleon in that regard. But at the same time, it wasn't like I was like upset with where I was at. Like I really liked having core group of friends and the familiarity. But I almost did actually. My junior going into senior year, I almost transferred actually to other private schools that have like a lot better sports programs. So I
Hmm.
almost transferred because I'm getting a little more serious about that. But then the more I thought about it, I was like, you know what? At this point, I'm like 17 years old. If I transfer schools, is it really gonna be that big of a deal in my life to leave all my friends? So I decided to just stay at the school I was at. But I was close. I was close to leaving for like sports purposes.
Right. And getting into the sports conversation, you mentioned a couple. Did you have a first love, or could you rank the sports that you were either like to play or good
Yeah,
at, or both?
I think the first sport I remember loving was hockey. So super random, but I think it's because when I was starting to get into sports and I was like 5, 6 years old, that's right when the Ducks were like a new
Hmm.
expansion team in the NHL. So like we're talking about like the green and white, like the original hockey sticks crossed over the like the goalie mask duck face, like
Hmm.
that, like the in the Disney movies. the Mighty Ducks. Were those Disney movies? Those are Disney movies,
Those
right?
were, yeah,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
were.
those were great. So anyway, I was all into hockey. I wanted to be a goalie. But obviously in Southern California, like there's not a lot of ice, so it was like more like roller hockey. And I got these like really cheap goalie pads and a helmet, and that's what I thought I was gonna do. And then obviously I got a little older, and I mean, I still played basketball around that time too, but I think hockey was the first love, and then came basketball, and soccer. I kind of just played just because everybody else played it at first. Then it was kind of more basketball, but then I kind of gravitated to basketball, baseball, and soccer because I could play all three of them like year round. But then in high school, I had to switch. I had to get rid of soccer because basketball was like definitely my passion, and it was like around the same. I think it's the same season, I believe. So I had to get rid of soccer, and then I broke my elbow
Mm.
playing basketball my sophomore year preseason. So the baseball dreams, like it was, you could still play, but it was a bad fracture. I had to have a couple surgeries, so I could play basketball the next year. I wasn't at 100%. It took like probably like multiple years to get near full strength back. But I mean, to still be a pitcher, in baseball, it was like, because I was like I played shortstop and pitcher, but I really liked pitching a lot. So to go back to playing pitching and that amount of torque on my elbow after a really bad fracture, it was like I would have been out of high school by the time I really felt comfortable like throwing that hard again. So I just decided I'm like, maybe this is a sign I just need to focus on basketball. So then I just went with basketball. Going into my junior year, that's all I was playing at that point.
And then you took that and to go back to your first love of hockey. Actually, I haven't been to a lot of like marquee sporting events per se, but I was
Yeah.
there in 2007 when the Ducks won the Stanley Cup,
You
and
went to
that
the
was
game?
yeah, we were at the game because my aunt used to work for
Oh,
Disney, so she used to get sweet tickets, and it just so happened that I think we went to like two finals games that year. But anyway, we were there when they
jeez.
won, and it was
That's cool.
by far the most energetic atmosphere I think I've probably ever been in. You could just, I don't
That
know,
was
you could
wild.
feel the electricity, you could feel the energy. Obviously, it's a big moment for the Ducks, but uh, amazing, just amazing, amazing stuff.
Was that when they had like like they kind of used their orange and black jerseys, but they kind of used their old jerseys too, but they kind of went back and forth.
Yeah,
Weren't
they
they doing that for a little
mostly, I think
while?
they mostly used the white ones at the
The white
time.
and the purple ones?
Yeah, yeah, I believe so. At least that's what I think, that's what they were wearing that night. Wow, it's so long ago I can barely even remember
Yeah, because I
exactly.
remember there was a period where they were like changing, but like a lot of the fans like really liked those old ones, so they
Yeah,
kept wearing them to like a degree. I think that was like right around that year. I remember that. I
it
was
mi-
so pumped watching those games.
it might have been. Yeah, those are those playoffs were pretty high. They all are. I
Do you
mean,
remember do you remember the Angels winning in 2002? Was it
yeah, I
2002?
remember that. 2002.
I
Yeah,
never played. I remember skipping school to go to the parade at Disneyland because I had passes. So we went and watched this like Disneyland Angels parade, and I
yeah,
came back the next day, and my teacher was like, "So Caleb," he goes, "You were sick yesterday, huh?" he knew he knew
he
exactly
knew.
what we were doing. Yeah, but he didn't care. He was like, "Whatever."
Yeah, once in a I want to say once in a lifetime, but once in a every so often, you got to make that happen, man.
Well,
You
I
got to
can't.
do
It kind of
something.
is a lifetime, right? The Ducks have only won once, right?
Yep,
And the Angels have only won once.
I
Two
believe
Anaheim
so.
teams.
Yeah, so right now it is. You're right. It is once in a lifetime. So it's good that you made the parade, man. Especially at Disneyland, I can imagine all the fireworks. Must have been.
Now, when Denver wins and I'm in Colorado, I got to go to the parade in Denver.
Yes, yeah, and
Once in a
you know what?
lifetime.
I hope they pull it off, man. That city deserves it. The team's great. They have the players play together for a while, so they have really
Yeah, good.
fantastic relationships on the court and with each other as far as the fluidity of their game. So they play exciting
Yeah.
basketball. I want to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I'm not happy they swept our Lakers, but I mean, it's done now, so now I'm rooting for them.
Yeah, it was a painful death. I chose to watch it by myself. I didn't want to watch it with anybody else because I knew that it would be a solemn moment, especially how hard LeBron played, everything he put into it, and everything like that.
Yeah.
But a new story is going to be written, man. I can't be mad at Denver at all.
Yeah. They're good.
Um, So, but to kind of relate it to continue your basketball career. So obviously you played in undergrad, right?
Yep.
And remind me where you went to college at and how that was, how your college career went.
So I went to Azusa Pacific, and I was there from 2007 2011, and it was a fun time. I mean, the that's the other thing. So we're going back to the small private school, high school thing. So when you go to a small private school, you're kind of like the man. Like if you're a good player, like you're the man. And so I knew I wasn't like great, but I thought like, man, I'm pretty dang good. But when you go play at the college level, and the Azusa Pacific was a top. It is still a really good school to play basketball, but like at that time it was NAIA Division 1. We could compete with like some lower major or some mid-major Division 1 NCAA teams. So like it was a really good program. Now they're NCAA Division 2, one of the top schools in Division 2. But you play against guys at that level, and it was kind of like the shock. like I had played some travel ball, but not like not a lot of AAU ball. But like you go and play guys at that level, and a lot of the guys too were transfers from like decently large D1 schools, and like they had like issues with like academic probation or whatever. But I mean, everybody's really good. Everybody on the team was a star of their team, and like some guys were like Mr. Basketball in their like area, and like it was crazy. So like everybody is playing at the college level, and I'm gonna go on the tangent here, but people talk about like casual fans will talk about like just like, oh, you're not Division 1, like whatever. And like if you're playing Division 3 college basketball at a decent school, like you're really good. like these are all great players. So anyway, what I'm trying to get to was my career was the first year was kind of this like wake up call of like, man, I'm not as good as I thought I was as a freshman. And to be completely honest, like I had the talent, and I think my coach wanted me to play more, but I just wasn't locked in on like learning all the plays and kind of running the system. So it didn't allow me to really play much my freshman year. I kind of screwed up in the beginning of the season, just not being as focused as I needed to be. Plus, I'm just kind of like a freshman and trying to enjoy college, which I should have been more focused on basketball, but that's neither here or there. I had some fun outside of basketball as a freshman. Then we go to sophomore year. I'm getting more serious about it. I'm starting to get more playing time and played a decent amount off the bench. And then junior year, I started. I was actually going to be like 6-man off the bench, but I started because the guy who transferred in, my buddy Danny, shout out to Danny, he tore his ACL in a preseason intramural game. So not intramural game, but like we were playing amongst each other on the team. And so I ended up having a starting spot the whole season, which was great because it built my confidence up and it really gave me an opportunity. And I'd really worked hard that summer. So I had a really good season my junior year. I actually led the nation in NAIA in 3-point shooting percentage. And I think you have to like shoot a certain amount of threes per game to even be on that list. So I led the nation. And this is kind of a story that always just makes me laugh. So I led the nation not the entire year, but most of the year. And we got down to like the last like 6 games of the season. I was in a shooting slump. Like I was like shooting really bad. Like I would make like 1 out of 5, 1 out of 6, like just not shooting well. And then the very last game I went 0 for 4. And like that, I think if I would have made 1 3, I would have still been top in the nation shooting percentage. But I got one other guy passed me up. I ended up being second in the nation because I was in this bad shooting slump the end of the year. So still looking back at that, I'm like, oh, that sucks. But whatever. It's neither here nor there. And then senior year, I was playing the best basketball of my life that summer, and I tore my meniscus in my knee, playing like just summer league games, just going hard. And then I tried to rehab it without surgery, and I did really well. But then this is the funny thing. So in hindsight, as a physical therapist, I went from doing controlled rehab, even though I was going really hard, to like going and playing half court on like concrete at Laguna Beach, like hard, like 3-on-3 basketball, like early in the morning Saturdays, which are really good runs. And I'm like, of course, as a 21-year-old or 20-year-old, I'm thinking like, oh yeah, I'm ready to go. Like, let's go hard. Versus like now I would have like eased my way back into it. I would have done like more like controlled drills, one-on-one stuff, like then like some 3-on-3, but more like controlled drill stuff. And then I would have gone hard if I'd seen how my knee tolerated it. But back then I didn't know any better. So I flared my knee up like crazy bad. Like I played well, but then like the next day my knee was like a balloon. So in my mind, I'm like, oh shoot, I need to get surgery. So then I get surgery because it was like 4 to 6 weeks until season started. And then I missed like the first couple of games, and I started the season like really well, like scoring over 20. I think I was scoring like 20, 23, 21, 23 points a game for the first few games. But then my knee just started getting really sore because I was still like in the early stages of recovery after surgery. But it was my senior year and I wasn't about to sit out. So the whole year I kind of played injured. Was kind of shooting off more one leg. I wasn't really like balanced as well, and kind of just my knee was always really painful and achy after games. So needless to say, I had some really good games my senior year, but I wasn't as consistent as my junior year just because my knee was giving me problems. But at the end of the day, it was still a good year. I forgot to mention my junior year, we actually made it to the national championship game, and we lost by 1 point. And we actually made, I think I might have told you this story before, but we made a buzzer beater shot. One of the guys on my team got a rebound. The ball was kind of bumping around in the air, and he got it too late and he shot it, and literally they had to go to like video replay as we're all sitting there in the like huge stadium in Kansas City, and it was on his fingertips. He made the shot. It was on his fingertips when the buzzer went off and the red lights. So we were like crying. Like it was like this would have been our first national championship as a school, and the girls had actually won that year, so we would have had both teams win the national championship.
Wow.
So it was crazy. This was like 2010 2011 season, and
Who did
no
you
joke,
play?
I've never actually been like I've never been depressed in my life, but that was the closest I've ever been to like actually depressed.
Yeah.
For like a few weeks, like I just didn't want to talk to anybody. And I remember, this is kind of funny, but I grew up my beard for like 3 months, like in protest. Like I never do that, but I remember just having this crazy straggly wild man beard because I just didn't care.
Yeah.
But now looking back on it, you can just kind of look back and laugh. And the guys that were on the team, we still talk about it. And anyway, I know it was a really long career story, but I thought I just might as well go into
No,
it.
that's good. That's good. Who was the team that you played in the championship?
Oklahoma Baptist University.
Oklahoma. Okay, Oklahoma.
And
Baptist.
then just to kind of talk about my senior year real quick, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
We were in the quarterfinal. Yeah, I think we might have been in the quarterfinal game. And the team we played, we were up, we were controlling like most of the game, and they made a run. I can't remember what the team's name was. They ended up having the MVP of the tournament, but anyway, we lost to them, and a lot of it was just because and I'm not trying to like make excuses. We had a really good team. My senior year was better than my junior year team, actually. I think a lot of talent, a lot of guys that were on the championship team were seniors the next year. But then we just had some foul trouble, and we had some inexperienced younger players that were really talented, but they just were inexperienced and made some turnovers and ended up losing. And then that team won the national championship. They ended up blowing through everybody else. So that was just kind of crazy. But anyway,
Yes, some of the of that story I do remember. It's good to well, I mean, it's nice that you tell it again. I'm pretty sure it's still revisiting some harsh memories.
some
But a
demons
lot
of
of
the
that is
past.
why I give you a little bit of a I give you a little bit of a break, or just take a little bit of what am I trying to say? Like, just ease up on you a little bit, because fast forwarding to physical therapy school, where I found out how good you were at basketball. I was really impressed, by the way. And we had started our intramural basketball team.
That was fun.
And I think that the department for a while was kind of floating in and out of that league, And I'm like,
Yeah.
no, we're gonna get in this league and we're gonna win it. And our first couple games were, they weren't bad, but they weren't very impressive. I'm like, I need to go recruit. So I recruited my cousin Ralston. We call him Ross because he got his master's at APO, so he was eligible. And the first game he played, like, all the officials were like, "Who is this guy? We need to check his eligibility. Go get his ID." Like, they were running all kinds of like government info to see who he was. And obviously he was eligible to play. But then I was like, we still need one more guy. And so I was like tugging on your cape. Caleb, we need you. And you were kind of, letting me know like, that's part of my life is kind of, I let it go in the past. Plus I've had some past injuries. I'm like, man, just pull it together for like a couple games, man. We're gonna win the championship. So anyway, you decided not to play, which I totally respect, and I think we ended up going to the championship, but we played the all coaches team who have been winning like every year, and we
Oh,
just
yeah,
didn't
right.
have enough firepower. We lost that game pretty handily, and the whole time I was like, if we had Caleb,
I can't remember
but
why I didn't play. 'Cause I know we played some pickup games, and that's what I was
it
thinking. When you
was
said that, I thought you were talking about pickup games. I'm like, I don't remember playing intramural. That's because I didn't play.
yeah. You were commuting from Orange County, right? We had just
Oh, the games were like on a
like
certain night or something. I don't know if it
the
like
games
worked
were
with
at
like my
night.
schedule. Well, yeah.
Yeah, we had layers and layers of material to study for class. There was, I mean, there was a lot of legit reasons, but I was still like, come on, man, we can win this. Um, but anyway, all that was made up for when we played intramural soccer, because I think that's when we had our biggest bonding moments, and we had a ton of fun.
Oh yeah.
Remember, we were out there just trying to, strategize, and I remember you were like, look, man, you like to kick, you're the tallest guy out there. I'm like, you like to kick a lot of balls, throw a lot of balls over the top. Like, I can give you a couple headers, but I'm not giving you too many headers like, I'm not doing that. Just not, I'm like, all right, I'll pick and choose my battles.
Yeah.
But it was fun. We had a good team, man. It was awesome.
Yeah, that was fun. The soccer was really fun. I
Yeah.
think it's
The
kind of
soccer.
fun. It was fun for me because um and don't take this the wrong way, but when we play like basketball sometimes, like when you're playing with guys that like didn't play at that level, like you're having fun, but you're kind of like, okay, like it's not as much of a challenge, right? And I'm kind of just like, this is great. But when you play the soccer, and I'm like, I'm not that great at soccer. I stopped playing soccer years ago. To be a guy out there who's like, I know that most of the guys in the field are better than me. It's like more of like I got to show what I'm made of.
Yeah.
and and then to just screw up constantly, but also just have a blast doing it. And we had a lot of really close games, and I remember getting like intense. I remember us getting like intense, like angry, like, come on, guys, pull it together. That
Yeah.
was fun. That was a good
It
time.
was not for the faint of heart, that's for sure. But all kinds of good times. But going back to the academia side of things, how was physical therapy school for you? Was it a challenge?
Well, yeah.
Did Go
Sorry, I
ahead.
cut you off. Keep going.
No, that's all right. That was my main question. Like, was it a challenge? What were your biggest challenges, or if any, and can you speak on that?
Yeah. So I think it definitely was challenging. Anybody who's gone through PT school knows it was definitely a grind. Um, there was this weird, like I talked to some people about this now, kind of laughing about this. Is there was a group of us. I don't know if I ever talked to you about this, but everybody had like different majors, right? Undergrad, and there were like some people that were like totally. What was your undergrad, by the way?
Physiology.
Okay, so you took something that was related. But like some people
Hmm.
took like totally random like majors that had like nothing to do with physical therapy, and they like decided they just took prerequisites and then they got in. And there's people that did like exercise science or like kinesiology, and then there were like some of us that like especially like at APU we took like there was this what was it called? It was applied health physical therapy, which is like basically like pre-med. It was like pre-med. We were with like a bunch of PAs in our classes and like potential like a lot of the classes I took were like with like people that wanted to do science and actually be like physicians. So like undergrad was ridiculously hard, like so hard. And especially playing basketball and being especially like my last 2 years when the classes were the hardest and I was a starter. Like I might have told you this story before, but like I still remember I would be like, we'd be like driving to games, and I'd be like, I'd have like all my stuff, like I'd be constantly studying. Everybody else would be like listening to music, getting in the zone. I was just trying to study for the test the next day, and then I still remember playing our rival school, like this like biggest one of the biggest games of the season. I get my ankles taped in the training room, and I had a packet that was about 2 inches thick of like printed out like neurophysiology notes or something like that. It was like neurobiology or something. It was like crazy. And I was just so focused and stressed about the test the next day. And everybody's like, dude, we're playing like our rivals. This is like the biggest game of the season. And I'm like, it's all right, I'll be fine. And I actually went out and scored like the first 5 shots I took. And like I was on fire. But I think because I wasn't stressed about the game, I was just thinking about the test. And so to play the game was like, okay, it's game time. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is that major was so hard that like going into PT school was still tough, totally.
Hmm.
And there was some stuff that like a lot of the kinesiology or applied exercise science people knew that we didn't learn in our applied health. But we had the grind of like the crazy hard schedule that when we went to PT school, it was like we kind of were used to the grind. And in a way, it was kind of a relief on me because I wasn't playing basketball anymore. So I could just totally focus on school. I mean, we still have fun, right? But I get a lot more focus on school. So it was hard, but it wasn't like I wasn't prepared for it. So that
Right.
was kind of cool. It was kind of nice. At first, I was a little bit upset. I was like, man, did I really have to work that hard in undergrad? I could have taken maybe a major that wasn't as difficult. But looking back, I'm glad I did because it made it like I was just ready for that grind of PT school, which definitely is a grind, especially in that there was that period of time. What was it, the end of the first year, where it was like we were just like about to lose our minds. Like it
Yeah.
was just
They
crazy.
did away with that semester where they put all those classes in once, like ortho, pathophys, neuro.
Oh,
everything.
they got rid of the
They changed
gauntlet.
it up after that. Yeah.
Yeah,
probably
that
because
that
of
was
our
like
class.
that was everybody kind of knew like, all right, get ready. The year before would always warn the year after them, like, hey, here it comes. And then
Yeah.
we didn't really understand what it was like until we went through it, and that was insane. Man, I
Which is
kind of wish
kind
I
of
still
this.
had it. It's kind of like one of those like days of long past that you kind of like wish people went through that together with if you could talk about them with them.
Right.
What do they
And
do
it's
now?
they spread it out a little bit. I think they still have a semester that is still pretty heavy with a lot of heavy content in it. But I don't think I think they took the pathophys or one of the classes out and moved it,
Mm.
so
So
that
it's more
it's a little bit
manageable.
a little bit more palatable. But they still have a tough first end of first year, second year type of schedule going to where
Yeah.
they still have to get their stuff together. But one of the things I wanted to mention that I remember about you most, and what was so fun studying with you, was how regimented your study habits were, from from the content that you went through to even like your snack. You packed broccoli with hummus dip, and you had your carrots
Dude.
separated. And
Huh?
while we would be whatever, had gummy bears or whatever kind of snacks we had, you busted out the veggies. So I definitely picked up on that. And also, this is the funniest thing: your naps. So the first time I saw you take a nap, you took a nap in the busiest class with everybody in it during like a lunch or break period. And I'm like, he's either not going to sleep or he's not going to wake up in time. Like, it's going to
Yeah.
be one of the two things. I'm just going to wait and see what happens. And literally 15 minutes later, you pop up and you start walking around the room like in circles. And I'm like, well, what's the walking for? And you're like, oh, it's the app. Walk me up. Like your alarm, you had to get up and walk around for
Dude,
30
this
seconds
is like
to
a
a
whole
minute
nother life.
for the
I don't
alarm
remember
to
this stuff until
stop.
you're bringing it up. Dude, and then you know what is funny? I know the alarm I was waking up to was 50 Cent. I still
Yeah.
remember.
At that,
It was like
thought that
I think it was if I can't do it,
do
homie,
it
can't
can't
be done.
Yeah, it was
Dude,
so.
and it would make you walk like 50 steps because I couldn't wake up from my alarm. So this thing, you can't turn it off until it makes you walk. Man, I need to get that app again because I still
Yeah,
sometimes
that
use my alarm.
I had no idea that app existed. That was amazing. I'm like, this guy is the
Dude,
he's the
that's so
epitome of
funny.
what it takes to study hard and stay
The
very
big ice
dedicated,
chest.
man.
The big blue ice chest, man. That was like
The
a
big blue.
family-sized ice chest. But I was
Yeah.
also working out like 2 hours a day back then, and like I was like so intense about that. So I was like always trying to eat like perfect. I would meal prep, eat the same thing every day, constantly eating through class.
Yeah, you weren't taking any days off in any sense of the word, man. You were a machine back then, which
One
I
more
think
funny
has led
story.
to
I
your
got one more funny
success.
story.
Oh, go
I
ahead.
got one more. Do you remember? And some people might not appreciate this, but we will. Do you remember we were in pediatrics, and I was so adamant. I was like, I'm not going to do pediatrics. I love kids, but I do not want to work with them in physical therapy. Like I mean, again, looking back at this is totally rude. I did not condone this, but you remember on my computer, I downloaded an emulator, a Super Nintendo emulator, and I was playing Street Fighter with my iPod Touch. That's when we still use iPod Touch. I was using iPod Touch as a controller, and I beat the whole game of Street Fighter during a class.
And I was definitely there with one eye on your
And
screen
you and Josh,
one eye.
yeah, you guys were watching in the back, and I remember you guys kind of like rooting me on as we were going.
I tell everybody too how we kind of adapted that back row, and then we called our little section in our group Back Row Sports, because if there was any
Yes.
sporting event, we had it on the screen, and all of a sudden you saw people gravitate 3 or 4 rows back during class. Like, why is everybody
You
sitting
know
back
why?
there? We don't know.
No, we call it back row sports because we're in the back row and we would watch first row sports. We'd
That's
bootleg,
right.
we would bootleg the games. Again, I don't condone that either. Anybody listening? But we'd watch first row sports bootleg games on our laptops, and so we called the back row sports because anybody would
That's
come
right.
back and watch the bootleg games on first row sports.
But if you came back there, you definitely had to participate in the banter and everything that was going on,
Yes.
along with watching all the matches and all the
Oh
games.
man.
And World Cup was a very serious time then, and
Oh.
it was fun.
Hey,
Like you
NBA
said,
playoffs. I remember NBA playoffs studying in other rooms, and we put it on the projector. I still
yes,
remember.
nobody was
Yeah,
doing
that
that
was
before
crazy.
us, to my knowledge.
Hey, we set a trend.
We were setting
Trendsetters.
trends, man. But speaking of setting trends, you obviously graduated PT school with flying colors, did an orthopedic residency, started your own business, and also marketed yourself very successfully to the tune of 1 million followers on Instagram. Is that where we're at right now?
Yeah. Right now we're a little over 1 million. I hit it like a few weeks ago. Crazy, man.
Oh my goodness! Share the secret to that. We need some of that magic here at the Parallax Effect.
That,
Um,
you want to hear the story, the origin story?
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
So I was working at my job at Kaiser Permanente, Orange County, in sports. I just had finished my fellowship that year, and one of the guys I work with, Ronnie, shout out Ronnie, he would kind of just joke around with me like, hey man, you gotta start an Instagram, look at these guys. He would like show me guys on Instagram. Like, this is when there was like literally a handful of like PT and Cairo like educational pages on social media. And at that time guys would grow like, they would get like 20,000 followers in like a couple days if a post went well, like, because there was like really no competition. And it's not that to say that they weren't like, didn't have good stuff. It's just different time. But he would kind of joke around, and I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. What are you talking about? But at the same time, I kind of had this bug of like, I wanted to do something else, because it was nice after fellowship to not have anything to do except for work and see patients. But that lasted like 6 months. and then I remember my wife and I were starting to travel more, and we actually went to St. Lucia, and had a great trip. But I remember like coming back from that, I was like, man, I've just been enjoying life, but I feel like there's something missing. Like, I got to do more. And some people that have that bug, like, you know, you probably have it because you have a podcast and you do a bunch of extra stuff too. It's like you just have this bug of like, I got to do more. Like, I can't just do this. And so I was like, you know what? Screw it. Like, I was going to start a blog. I'd actually been working on a blog, because that's at that time. I don't even remember this. But I used to, like, when I was in PT school, I would like scour like the like Testosterone Nation, like there's a bunch of other PT blog, like workout blogs, and those were like where you got, that was like the content creators, like those are the people that were like really popular, really famous. You'd read their stuff like the Bible. And so I wanted to create my own, but then I started to see the social media stuff kind of where everybody was starting to shift. And I realized, I'm like, you know what, to make these like legit blog posts and to do the research for it and all that kind of stuff, like, this is going to take so much time that I don't know if that's how I want to like do it. And I don't really know how well it's going to, like, who's going to like see this or whatever. So like, I'm like, whatever, I'm going to start the social media stuff. So I started putting stuff out there, and I had done like a crazy amount of research, especially on Instagram, because that was the one that I knew was kind of popping off the most. And then I just kind of told myself, and there was this weird kind of scary moment where I was like, you know what, if I start this and I really want to make this good and not just like half-ass it, for lack of a better term, I'm like, this is going to be something that I'm going to have to like commit to like every single day. And I'm going to lose a bunch of sleep, and I'm probably gonna be frustrated for a while, but like, if I really want to do this, I got to stick to it. So long story short, I mean, maybe it's still gonna be kind of long, but I like just started creating as much content as I could. Like, everything's brand new posts every single day. I would stay up like till like 3 a.m. editing videos, learning on the fly. I constantly studying other pages to see what they were doing and how I can put my own twist on it. And it started to take off a bit, but nothing crazy. And a lot of people who have social media know, like, it's super hard. Like, you can put out really good content and like people still might not see it because it's so saturated now. But anyway, I got lucky because I had a couple bigger accounts share my stuff because they saw it, and I would interact. I was hardcore. Like I would like DM people, like just to like make connections. I would comment on bigger creators' posts, and like I was always like on it, like so many hours every day. It was like a full-time job almost. So eventually people started to see my stuff and they liked how it looked. So then it got shared, and then I started to get an influx of followers. And then that kind of webs out. Can you start to, then there are people that follow them, and then you get you network with these other bigger accounts, and then more people start to see your account, and then you start to have this huge library, and then people go on your page and they go, wow, this guy puts out a lot of good stuff. So then you get a lot more followers, because even if you put good content on at the beginning, if you don't have a big, like a lot of stuff, people are gonna be like, oh, this guy hasn't really put out much, like it's not really valuable for me to follow him. So you kind of have to have a library. So anyway, just started to grow, and then it started to just kind of exponentially starts to grow once you start to get that kind of growth. And I mean, I don't know how legit me saying this is, but I think I kind of joined around like this second wave of like more like physical therapy kind of people, because back when I started, it was a lot easier to grow than it was. This is the weird thing. So I would say now, but there's this weird thing now with like the TikTok reels, all that kind of stuff, where like pages are blowing up now, like they didn't like a year or two ago, or no, a few years ago. So anyway, it was a little bit easier to grow back then, but not as easy as maybe the beginning of these guys coming out. And then it just kept going from there. And then you just keep staying consistent. You keep learning. You keep grinding. You keep. The more patience you see, the more clients you see, the more that you know kind of the trend of what people want to see, what the big majority of people are struggling with, and then you just have to learn about marketing and how to make people want to actually watch this, because you could have great content, but if you don't know how to get people to like stop and look at it, it doesn't really matter. So there's a lot of that too. So anyway, that was kind of a long, drawn out version of it, but it's been a long road. It's been a grind, but it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, and I've been interested in wanting to hear it because, like you said, a lot of the content was put together very well. So I even found myself when people would ask me certain orthopedic questions or anything like that, I would forward them to you. Hey, follow this dude. I'll send you the video that you need to watch. Follow every step. Follow it to the T, and you should see results. And when they go on there and watch it, it doesn't look like it was done in a very low budget way. It looked like it was professionally done. I think that played a lot into it. So you definitely obviously have my endorsement and my support. Not that you need it, but you have it. And it's good to hear of how it came about. It just took somebody to put that bug in your ear, and then you ran off with it.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. And I think if anybody is thinking about starting that, there's this weird negative stereotype from a lot of like other like healthcare professionals and stuff, where like it's like you don't want to make things like what we quote, I'm air quoting, like clickbait, like. But the thing is, you could have great content, evidence-based content, whatever, but if you're not like getting people to click on it, it doesn't really matter. So you have to like know how to like market and really get people to want to click on it or tap on it or whatever. But at the same time, you're not being like, because there's some stuff you click on, you're like, oh, come on, like this is horrible. So you want to still make it valuable. You still want to provide the good. You're not just like getting people to click on it just to click on it. Like they click on it and then they go, oh, wow, this is actually really good content. So there's definitely like I'm still learning a lot about like marketing and business stuff, and that you don't really know coming out of school unless you have that background. So that was definitely like I'm still learning that stuff. But a lot of it, you just kind of over time, you see what works, and you just keep rolling with it.
Yeah, man. And I know we got to get you out of here pretty soon. But
yeah, we can go a few. We can go a few more. We can go a few more minutes. It's fine.
Yeah, let's. So you kind of touched on, how you would advise someone trying to kind of establish themselves as content creators and different things like that. But what about someone trying to get into our profession? What advice do you have for them?
Yeah, I was just talking to somebody recently about this. So I was just talking to a guy, actually. He's a kinesiology major. He doesn't really know what he wants to do. But I would say, and I'll just tell you what I told him, would be like, if you want to get into like a movement profession or strength conditioning or personal training or physical therapy or chiropractic or whatever, a lot of times you think you know what you want until you actually are like working in it or shadowing or like really seeing what a day in the life is like. So I think the most valuable thing you can do is like try to find somebody who's cool with you, just like following them, and like don't just like mooch off of them and like try to help them and provide value to them in a way that you can help them out, making their day easier. But ask them if you could follow them and shadow them for a week or a few days at least, and get a vibe of what that setting is that you were thinking about working in. And a lot of times people, I mean, they get upset because they're like, oh, it's not what I thought it would be. Now, there are some settings that aren't as good as others. So you might think you don't like it, but then you go to somewhere else and it's actually a lot better. So make sure you're going to somewhere that you really think is going to be a good fit. But you'll start to get a vibe of what you're actually interested in. Sometimes you surprise yourself and you don't realize how much you prefer something else. And like I'd say in my own career, like, I mean, a lot of us, right? You're into sports, you play sports, you think, oh, I want to work with athletes. I want to work with athletes, right? And like, I like working with athletes. Don't get me wrong. I really do. But like, I wouldn't want to ever work like full time, 100% with athletes, or I wouldn't want to be like traveling around with teams. Like that's just not, that's not what I would want. It wouldn't really fit in the quality of life I want to have. I've kind of built my own like schedule of like seeing people online virtually. I still like seeing people in person, but I like to just have the freedom of seeing anybody anywhere. And I like to see a mix of people that are like not in super good shape, not super healthy, but also people that are like at the top of the game. I kind of like that variety because it keeps you on your toes too. You don't just see like if you only see people that are super sedentary, you're going to see certain patterns. It's going to get kind of boring after a while. If you only see people that are super high end, you'll see off the wall stuff, but a lot of times you're going to see like a lot of the same repetitive injuries, overuse injuries all the time. So it's kind of cool to see like all ends of the spectrum. And so that's kind of what how I like to set up my practice with my clients.
Yeah, so I agree. Definitely get into the clinic, get into the lab, get into some building where things are happening if you're trying to advance or just gain a little bit more expertise in this field or any, if really, because then you start to be in the conversation, and I think that's always something that can help anybody's career. What's next for Caleb Burgess? What can we expect from you in the near or future? Anything you can share with us? Don't give away any intellectual property or anything like that. But
No.
what's next for you?
Well, at this point, I just moved and I have a lot more room and space. I'm going to try to build out. For those, is this recorded video or is this just audio?
This recorded video. Sorry.
No, that's fine. I'm saying if it is, and people are watching this, like I'm in my basement right now. People that aren't watching it, I'm in my basement. So I'm going to try to like make the basement more conducive to better filming quality and lighting and all that kind of stuff. So right now, I mean, I'm kind of in the process of it. You probably know this. I launched an app about a month and a half, 2 months ago. And so I'm trying to help more people. Like people can go to my page and find value, but I'm trying to get more people that like, they're going to pay a fee. So I'm going to make some income, but also it's a little more structured so they can have like a little bit more than just getting the posts on that I post. But they maybe they don't want to work with me one-on-one online as a coach, or they don't have the funds to do it or whatever. So that's kind of what I'm in the process right now. But the next step after I'm going to keep building that. Of course, I'm going to keep seeing one-on-one clients, but I want to make some group coaching. Like we're talking about like transformational kind of stuff. Like, hey, there's a subset of 20 people or 10 people or whatever that are in my group that have had back pain for 20 years and they fit these certain criteria. Like they're all going to have their own individual cases, but they're very similar. So I kind of want to do group coaching and make subsets of group coaching and kind of just like work on those with those people for 3 to 6 months and then do another group, maybe of a different area or the same area, and just do that. And then I also want to make more like one-off programs people can purchase of like here's a shoulder recovery program or a knee recovery program, and people can either buy that through PDF, and I'm also probably going to add some app integration stuff. So I have a bunch of ideas in my head, which always happens. And so how much of those are going to be like exactly how I say, probably not exactly the same, but those are things that I'm going to work towards in the future.
Yeah, it all sounds really good. And before we close up here, I got one more story for you. Speaking of just a guy of many ideas and just kind of really being ahead of the curve. I don't know if you remember when I started the DPT World Championship or whatever championship we called it, and we brought in that replica wrestling championship belt.
Yeah.
And the way it was formatted was whoever was the champion, somebody can come up and challenge them and ask them a question about whatever lecture or upcoming test we had. And you'd have to have some kind of like impartial referee with the real answer. And whoever, came up with the right answer or kept going on became the champion. So you were the first DPT champion. So I just wanted to shout that out to the people in the audience
Yes.
here. So we got Caleb Burgess, DPT world champion. I don't even know what we did with that belt. We had to retire it, I think, because we moved on or whatever. I wish I still had it, but I wanted to throw that into for some of our DPT stories as well too. But
Oh,
yeah, speaking
there's so
of,
many of those stories.
yeah, we could probably do a whole nother episode and just tell a whole bunch of stories, which might be a good idea for the future.
It might
But
actually be, yeah.
speaking, yeah, so please let the audience know where they can find you, what the app is called, how they communicate with you, things like that.
Yeah, so you can find me. Main page is Instagram, so it's Dr. Caleb Burgess, and there's periods between each of those, so Dr. period Caleb period Burgess. I'm on Facebook too. I'm on Twitter. I'm kind of on YouTube. Like basically all these things are like I'm just replicating what I put on Instagram. I'm probably gonna end up doing more long form stuff on YouTube, but haven't got to it yet. And then Twitter, every once in a while, I'll share like a quote or just a thought that I have, but not as often. And again, usually I use that to make posts for Instagram because those still do well. And then website is just the same thing. So it's drcalebburgess.com. My website's not too special. It's literally just to kind of give a quick background about me, and then if you want to work with me, you can fill out a form on there. And then the app. So the interesting thing about the app is it's like this network of other movement professionals and creators and coaches. So it's not like there's not like a Dr. Caleb app in the App Store. What you do is you go to my social media pages or website. I think mostly social media pages, and you click on like the link that I have on there, and then you can download the app. You subscribe to the app through me, but then it will take you to a link to download it to the App Store. It's kind of a weird way to do it, but the reason why they do that is because like I said, it's this network of creators. So when you subscribe to me, you actually have access to like 1,000 other people or more than 1,000 other creators for free technically, because you're subscribing to me, but you also have access to them. So they couldn't make like every single person has their own like name and face on the app. It just wouldn't work that way. So what they do is you have to download it through the person themselves. So that's how I set it up. So if you want the app, you got to go to my actual pages and download it from there.
Got it. And that is Dr.Caleb.Burgess. If you're listening to this, there's a high probability that you're already following him since he has over 1 million. But if you're not, please be the next one to do so, so we can keep getting that great content and great rehab advice out there to the public. I really want to thank you, Caleb, for being on the show. I called you up, man. You didn't hesitate. And it's something that I'll never forget, man. I really appreciate you.
Awesome, man. I appreciate you having me on. Sorry for taking so long to get back to all your messages too.
No, you're a busy guy. The fact that you got back is enough for me, man. So this has been, and by the way, if down the future, come back on soon, man. It sounds like we got a whole lot more stories we can tell. We can share a little bit more of your projects and all that kind of stuff. It's been great. It's been very fun. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining the Parallax Effect. Again, you can catch us on Twitter. That's Parallax Effects with an S. Parallax Effects on Twitter. Our Parallax Instagram is Parallax Effect Media. Once again, that's Parallax Effect Media. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel. This has been another episode of The Parallax Effect, where every angle reveals a new depth of understanding. I'm your host, Ryan Lavelle, signing off for Caleb Burgess. Thank you so much, sir. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me on, man.